this story is entitled The Letters. This is a story of an experience I had when I was just a child. I was 10 years old in 1944. Our country was at war with Germany. I was a little girl riding a bike on the 1A highway, which ran from Calgary to Banff, bypassing the town of Extra, which is where I was raised and where I lived. While I was on the highway, two young airmen were hitchhiking through to Banff, Alberta on a day pass. And they asked me if there was any place that they could get a bite to eat. And I responded by saying, yes, if I take you home, my mother will feed you. So I did take the two boys home. And of course, my mother fed them their lunch. And she made them a little bit of lunch to take with them, because she always said, when my older brother went off to war in the Navy, my mother always said, I hope wherever he is that people will treat him kindly. Anyway, I never saw those two airmen again, but it was sometime later that we received letters from both of those airmen thanking my mom for her generosity and thanking me for introducing them to such a wonderful host. Well, I was 10 and I knew how to write. Not very well, but I did know how to write. And so I wrote back to both the airmen. And I got another letter back from Norman Hubley. Norman Hubley and I continued that correspondence for over 56, almost 60 years. He never married. He stayed with the Air Force and he traveled all over the world. And he would be posted in many different areas. And I remember one time he was posted in Sardinia. And I got a letter from Norman from Sardinia, and I wrote back and I said to him, is that where all the sardines come from? Well, I think I'd learned more geography from Norman than I did from my formal education. And I grew up, I got married, I moved to Vancouver, I lived out there for a while, then I moved back to Alberta. And through those many years, we kind of off and on lost contact, but we always seemed to regenerate that pen palship. And eventually Norman was old enough to retire from the Air Force. And he had a very dear friend, he told me in one of his letters. And this gentleman had passed away and left a widow. Well, Norman decided that he was going to marry the widow. And he was then in his 70s. And he married Adina. And he was with Adina for about 4 years, and he kept writing to me and let me know where he moved to and whatnot in different places in Ontario. And he would often send me a picture when he enclosed, which would be enclosed in his letters. But I never saw him again. And I did write one time, and I remember there was a program on TV called, I can't remember what it was called, but you would go on that show and the panel would have to guess what the show was about, right? And Front Page Challenge, it was called. And I said to Norman, I think we should go on Front Page Challenge. He wrote back and said at the end of his letter, no Front Page Challenge. So we never did do that. However, I did get a letter one time from Adina, and Norman had passed away. And the interesting thing about this story is before Norman passed away, he bundled up many of the letters that I had written to him through all of those years and mailed them back to me. And I still have those letters. And I sit and I can read those letters over. Many of them are ink blots and messes and misspelled words, whatever. But it's a history of Norman and my relationship through all those years. We never did see each other again, but we kept in touch with those letters. And I got those letters in my hand right now. That's the end of that story.